So we're very excited to host this very interesting conversation today. My name is Keith Mines. I'm the Vice President for Latin America and the Caribbean here at the U.S. Institute of Peace. USIP was founded by the U.S. Congress in 1984 with the intention of seeking areas where the United States could help to mitigate, resolve, and shore up peace around the globe. We do this through a combination of convenings, analysis, and field programs. Our very unique building is a combination of convening space, office space, and monument to the U.S. commitment to peace on the National Mall. In the hemisphere, we're active in Colombia, Venezuela, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Bolivia. And our program today, we think, is a very timely one. The advance party of a Kenyan multinational security contingent arrived in Haiti over the weekend, and Kenya's president is in the U.S. this week for very high-level engagements. Meanwhile, on the ground in Haiti, the situation remains dire, with gangs controlling a major part of the capital and food security and access to health care at an all-time low. There's much energy being devoted to the issue of security, and indeed in many parts of Haiti, that is a truly important issue. But most agree that security in Haiti needs to be part of a larger picture of human development, and that governance, security, and development are highly intertwined and need to be considered together. Many also agree that the picture being painted of Haiti as a place where international assistance goes to die is simply wrong. There's countless examples of positive international Haitian partnerships, and there are countless Haitians ready to get to work. So we hope to draw out these examples today. To help us do so, we'll start with a 10-minute presentation by Jean-Martin Bauer, the Haiti Director for the World Food Program. He's zooming in from Port-au-Prince. He would have lost a week to come here to do it in person. We told him definitely not. But I'm told he's very active on LinkedIn. So if you have questions for him, connect with him. We'll then have a roundtable discussion with our panelists, Madeleine Maceno Avignon, Country Director and Co-founder of Communities Organizing for Haitian Engagement and Development, COFED, Gloria Blaze, Haiti Policy House Director of Research, and Jake Johnston, Senior Research Associate with the Center for Economic and Policy Research. So Jean-Martin, let me turn it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Keith. I'd like to start by agreeing with you. Haiti's in trouble. It's now facing its worst humanitarian crisis since the 2010 earthquake. At least 5 million people are facing acute food insecurity. These are numbers we haven't seen in the record. Now, that doesn't mean that it's impossible to work on important longer-term issues in Haiti. Haiti may be in trouble, it may be in dire straits, but it's not a people or a place to write off or to give up on. What I'd like to tell you about is how this has played out in the food security space, and hopefully that lays the groundwork for the discussion that the panelists will be having in the next hour. But let's look closer at Haiti. The overall picture is bad, but if we zoom in to specific areas, we'll find, I'd say, green shoots. We'll find beacons of hope. And one of those is in the area of food security with the work that we've been able to do with smallholder farmers, and that many other organizations are doing by increasingly working with Haiti smallholder farmers, the people that Haitian author Jacques Roumain called the masters of the do. If we look at food policies in Haiti, it's almost self-evident to say that they haven't always been run in the interest of the Haitian people. They haven't reached the results that were expected of them in Haiti. There was the case of the banana industry in the 1940s, the sisal exports during World War II, the Creole pigs in the 1980s, the rice policy, the rice tariff policy in the 1990s. So there's a litany of failed projects there. And that's been one of the reasons why Haiti's in trouble these days. Haiti used to be self-sufficient. Today, I'm told that Haiti imports half of its food and even 80% of rice, the key staple in this country. So the country's not able to feed itself anymore. And in spite of massive investments and massive involvement by people from outside. I'd like to zoom into the school feeding projects that Haiti's had and the country's experience with these projects. They started in 1954 when Hurricane Hazel devastated the south of the island. Hurricane Hazel flooded out the south and Grand'Anse. It wiped out food production. And what's interesting is that right after Hurricane Hazel, a boat arrived in southern Haiti from the U.S. It's a Navy ship, the USS Saipan, and it was carrying agricultural commodities that were going to be used as food relief after the hurricane. This was one of the first shipments under a U.S. Public Law 480. This was a law enacted by the Eisenhower administration to make foreign policy. Well, the way Haitian experts talk about it, they will tell you that this food arrived in 1954. It saved lives. The food within that boat saved lives, but it never stopped coming. And it never really helped Haitian farmers construct a more durable system to feed the country. Quite the contrary, it kept coming in. And the school feeding program in Haiti has always been predicated on the availability of imported food, completely neglecting local farmers and the capacities that local farmers have in Haiti. So if you fast forward a few decades, Haiti's gone through, a litany of disasters as well. The most memorable being the 2010 earthquake. After the earthquake, people did realize that we'd lost the capacity in Haiti to locally procure the food needed for the population in the aftermath of a disaster. And voices were more and more strident about the fact that the school feeding program should actually involve local farmers. These were calls that came from civil society and came from government. Civil society approached WFP and said, why are you bringing in food from abroad when we have thousands of Haitian farmers who are able to produce it? In 2016, the Haitian government adopted a school feeding policy that it was considered extremely ambitious at the time, but aimed for 100% of the meals served in Haitian schools to come from Haitian producers by 2030. It was considered overly ambitious. And at WFP, we were not so sure. We had some experience with homegrown school feeding in other countries of the world, but in Haiti, there was a concern that the market wouldn't keep up, that the farmers wouldn't be able to supply the quantities, that there would be inflation, that there would be supply. So we started with a very small test in 2015 in the Plaine d'Abraham in the department of Nip in the south. Plaine d'Abraham is a big 800-hectare plain where rice is grown. It's quite a productive area. And we soon found out that by working with the smallholder farmers, we are able to supply the school feeding program. That year, we had 3,500 students receiving a homegrown school meal. It was 1% of the total for that year. If you fast forward to today, that's completely changed. This program has been scaled up at a very difficult time for Haiti. And we are now, as I speak, at 56% local content in the school feeding program for the World Food Program in Haiti. Every day, we're providing a homegrown meal to 250,000 school children. This meal is made out of, it's usually rice or corn. We also provide tubers, potatoes, all types of vegetables, including cabbages, spinach, again, a long list of fresh products. And what this project does is provide income to the smallholder farmers who were displaced by the agricultural crisis in the country. And it also provides school children with a nutritious hot meal, often the one consistent meal they'll have that day. So it's really a win-win, and it's worked out very well for us. What we did in 22 and 23 was actually almost quadruple the amount of food we purchased from farmers. Again, the same questions came up. Would local farmers be able to do it? Would we create inflation? The answer is no. The smallholder producers we work did quite well. And if you look at the impacts that this project has had, so we worked with a model developed by the Economic Commission for Latin America, a United Nations think tank, kind of like you, USIP, for the United Nations. Well, they estimate that with the program we've had to purchase food from smallholder farmers in Haiti, we've been able to ensure that 5,200 hectares of land in Haiti are cropped. So every single day, this is an area as large as Bermuda for a regional comparison, or as large as the island of St. It's cropped in Haiti every single day to produce this food for the children. We've created more than 1,000 jobs, full-time jobs at processing the foods that are used in the school feeding program. And there are other benefits as well. We work with 170 local farmer organizations that get support from us so that they're able to respond to the demand. And these 170 organizations, 3,000 members. So this is an impact at scale. And we're now purchasing more than 4,000 tons of food per year. Schools are open. It's an injection of $1 million right into smallholder farmers' hands. And this is vital at a time of economic recession in Haiti. Right now, we're in the 5th year of recession in this country. So it is possible to work with these small farmers to have an impact. And I'd like to, in the balance of my time, focus on some of the key learnings. And I suspect these will be also themes of today's discussion. And for us, the key word has been localization and localizing our action in this country. When I say localization, I talk about or work with the grassroots in this country. They were the one advocating for a change in the way we work, and they were right to push us. Our involvement with the grassroots extends to these 170 individual farmer organizations we work with. They're 70% women, so this is an effort done by people with very modest means, but they're able to do everything we used to do in this country with trucks and boats and sometimes helicopters to supply the food. I mentioned the word localization, and certainly a buzzword. It's also about using local foods. I mentioned some of the foods we purchase, but one of the innovations we've done is to try to work on local food products to improve them, to make them suitable for a large-scale institutional program like school feeding. Just last month, my team was able to purchase our first lot of breadfruit flour. Breadfruit is packed with vitamins and minerals, and it should be a good food for children. And we've been able to start using these new foods. So we had to get outside of our comfort zone. For the World Food Program, our comfort zone is buying things like rice and putting them in containers and receiving them at the port. And no, we've actually went the extra mile to try to work with local breadfruit producers and find a new product that was suitable. And finally, and quite importantly, the third element in localization is alignment with the national government. Some of you might not know this, but the number one donor to the World Food Program in Haiti, and we're a voluntarily funded organization, the number one donor is not USAID, it's not USDA, it's not France, it's not the European Union, it's the Haitian government itself. This is because we've been able to shift our work, our program of work, and our plan for the country to align with government priorities. I know that at present we're in flux and transition with the government, but at the technical level, the focal points are there. We're working with them every single day, and we're able to make these programs work out. So I'd like to end with something that Jacques-Stéphane Alexis wrote. Jacques-Stéphane Alexis is a 20th century Haitian author. He wrote in French, "Les peuples sont des arbres qui fleurissent malgré la mauvaise saison." People are trees that bloom in spite of the bad season. And I think that captures what we're trying to do and what we were able to do by working with smallholder farmers. Even though we have a very difficult situation in Haiti, we've reduced the length of our supply chains, even though the port is closed, even though the airport was closed for almost 3 months, even though the roads in and out of Port-au-Prince are blocked by armed groups, we're still able to feed the children. We're still able to support the farmers. Back to you, Ken. Thank you.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and move up to our panel. I'll take this chair and please. Anywhere, yeah. Jean-Martin, thanks so much. That was a tremendous framing, and I think really sets the stage for the rest of our conversation. It reminded me of a lot of things. It reminded me of one of the things that I did when I was in Haiti. I made the hike from Kenskoff to Jacmel. And again, the myths of Haiti are endemic, but there was the myth. I remember when I was going, people said, well, the whole place has been deforested, there's no good soil. I mean, you walk the rural areas and it is nothing but small landowner after small landowner actually being quite productive. And this question of policy and programs, we'll talk a little bit about this with our panel, because there are good lessons learned for programs, but when the policy is all wrong, there's no program for it. There was no program to come in and replace the Creole pigs that were destroyed. There's been a number of places like that where a policy could be reversed, other ones where it's already done the damage to the industrial sector from the extensive embargo. There's things that were just lost there that it would take decades and maybe some never come back. So anyway, really good framing. Thanks a lot. And I think, we may try to come back at the end when we have Q&A. Again, worst case, people will hit you on LinkedIn. So let's get right into it. I wanted to start with the first question for Madeleine. There's a perception among many that much of the international assistance to Haiti has not produced the desired results. But COFED has shown tremendous results with very limited budgets in improving education, health, and even security in community settings. So what would you say have been the keys to COFED's success, and are there good partners to work with in Haiti?
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone that is here learning about Haiti successes, especially my focus will be on the 49 or 50% of Haitian citizens living in rural settings. So the key approach for us to our success, but it's also a community success. I cannot talk about COFED success without mentioning the community itself, because they're the one that did the hard work. And so the main thing is we shift the power to them, basically, literally. As a social change agent, when we get an invitation to go to a community, the first thing they ask us, what project do you have and what you're gonna do for us? And our answer is nothing. We don't have anything. We don't have money. I remember our first village, our budget was $500. And this question come to us. So basically, what I noticed, do not let this kind of like posture, thatch roof, huts, and this question, just, make you think that, oh, I have the answer for them. And so the best thing to be in that sense is be silent. I can't tell you how many silent meetings we have in the community where they're waiting for me because they know I studied in the US, even though I'm Haitian, and I have the solutions, but we're just looking at each other. You live here, I don't live here. So you are the best to know what to do. For instance, I'm a storyteller, so I'm gonna paint you a picture. After a year working with the community as a catalyst, we did a lot of talks about respect, dignity, decision-making, social change, values and norms that keep you in poverty. All these things are being discussed. Then we got a letter from a group of women. They wanted to start a microcredit program. And we went to the meeting and we said, well, where's your money? They said, we don't have any. We're just like, same like you, we don't have any either. And they were just like puzzled. And then we talked about entrepreneurship and what makes good business. And the next meeting, we said, well, let's go outside to see what we have in this community. You don't have any money, maybe we have something, let's look. So we took a walk outside and said, hey, let's see what we have. Oh, there are plantain trees, breadfruit. Oh, there's an orange. Oh, the coconut tree is having coconut. Oh, there's a river. There are pebbles. Oh, there's something. And how about the next meeting, we bring some pebbles because nobody owns them. The next meeting, they bought some pebbles, and at the end of the meeting, we were just like, what? These were coins, 25 cents on good. And the next meeting, they're starting to bring money. And the money was $35 US, and they gave it to one woman. They said, go invest that. 12 years later, the same group of women, micro in their hands, celebrating their 12 years, 60,000 in their portfolio, 500 members, and I'm looking at them and I said, is this the same group of women that bought rocks? So meaning that just our lenses that usually dictate to see poverty we make decisions upon that. And I think we need to go further, to know that, because we create habits in society. What I've learned from these communities is just because they say like that, just because they have a hut, just because the situation dictates poverty, there's much more. And they take the habits of what society thinks of them, especially in rural settings. They call them moderator, so they are excluded from within. They feel that they are the illegitimate children of the state, and so they don't count, their voices don't count, but they have a vast knowledge of how they want to change their communities. And the best gift to give them is time. Time for them to think differently, time for them to have a reflective process on how they want to change that. Time for them to see that, wow, we have knowledge and we can change that. So that's our experience. So I cannot talk about COFED success without talking about the community partners' successes. Because the same kids we met in 8th grade, they are the one running the community. They are the ones being principal of their school, running the clinic, running that the microcredit. The same group of women that bought rocks in that meeting, their interest rate sent 2 young women to get bank support services training so they can go back to the community and run this bank. So this is the Haitian, it's Haitians in rural settings. So if they can do this, I think that Haitians in urban centers, Haitian in cities, we can do this, So do not let what's happening in Port-au-Prince right now keep us from seeing Haitians differently, because we can, and we can do it.
Can I ask just a quick? Yeah, that's good. Okay, we're going to get a lot of those today. Just one follow-up question. Could you do a little bit more to paint the picture between the division between the rural areas and Port-au-Prince? Because I think you're the one that can do this the best. You and I talked earlier also about the migration trends, where at some points the rural people were going to the cities. You said that now some of them are coming back. They're disenchanted with the cities and going back. So just a real brief picture of the rural versus urban, because I think that's at the heart of a lot of what we're talking about.
Yeah. So the rural communities that we work with, they feel, the government apparatus is empty. So one thing that they say, they are involved during election, where a politician will come and promise them that they can make the ocean arrive at the mountain. And then, so after that, it's for a birth certificate or when they sell an animal. Because I did an action research with those communities. And I wanted to talk about the beneficiary mindset. They changed my question because they were my co-researchers. And they wanted to talk about their relationship with the state. Because they want to engage with the state. They want to be part of the state, especially the young people. Because the young people were my co-researchers. Some of them didn't even know how to read. But they were there thinking, how can they change their communities? Because a lot of what we realized that when this community is starting to, our first community partner, when they started to build school, and the kids that they give in servitude in Port-au-Prince, they went and get them back. Because now in the village, there's a new school. And so to your question, Keith, we want to encourage the young people to stay in the rural area. We want to encourage them because we have an emergent leaders program. So when they finish high school, we send them to college, and they come back to the communities. I mean, usually when kids get into the city, they don't want to go back to the village. But they were the one doing the assessment. They were the ones, so they are accountable to their communities. So they come back to run everything. So young people they have a reason to stay in their communities. Now with the ones coming back from Port-au-Prince, so how do we implicate them into the back in the life? In rural life, because once you hit the city, it's hard for you to get back into rural life. But what's happening there right now? These communities are having community meetings every week. Every week we have 12 communities now meeting every week. There's no food given. There's no transportation cost paid. Why do they come together? And then so those that are coming back from Port-au-Prince, that's what they have right now. They have an anchor. They have people that they can imitate, so they say, oh, this young person that I know now, he's a director of the school, and this young woman that I know walking barefoot in the village now is the nurse. So there's hope now for them to stay in the village.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Gloria, let me turn to you now. Paul Farmer came to believe later in his career, before his passing, that government institutions have often been ignored as foreign assistance has built up a whole alternate sector for health, education, and even security. But presumably any real success will come from some kind of a public-private partnership. I wonder if you could share examples of Haitian government policies where an empowered Haitian government has been particularly effective in fostering development, and what aspects of these policies contributed to their success.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you everyone that's here, both in person and virtually. I'm very happy to be here. This is a very critical conversation, and so I thank my colleagues here for coming and having great debates and great discussion with us. And so I'm going to preface my responses by saying that I am a 29-year-old millennial that is a revived Haitian that decided to go to school and learn as much as I can about Haiti. I was born in Haiti, raised there for 5 years, and moved to the great state of New York in 2000. And so my background is in ecology and natural resources, and so my responses will be primarily framed around that. And so, Keith, this is a great question. And so one of the first things that pops up in terms of public-private partnership was PEPFAR, which is the Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. And so that's probably one of the most successful public-private partnerships that I can think of in my age that is still active today. And so when we think about what made that program or that policy really effective was the whole of government approach. Everyone that had any kind of stake in addressing the AIDS issue was involved. And that is what we need today in this heightened moment in Haiti's transition. But I also want to talk about something else, which was President Aristide's alphabetization approach. It was an approach to education and adult literacy, and what I gather from this was a will. When there's a will of our leaders to want to address something critical, they can do it. And so this program, just to give you some numbers, it allowed about 160,000 children to enter school in 2001, and by the end of 2002, there were 13 new public schools. And as you know, private schools dominate Haiti's landscape. And if you don't have the money to send your kids to school, your kids don't go to school. So public schooling was made available. They subsidized textbooks and supplies and uniforms. And actually, the uniforms are free. And breakfast and lunch was provided. And so we look at stuff like this, and it's like even the thought of libraries and cyber cafes being established for students to be able to have access to spaces that probably weren't available before. We think about, yes, Aristide's presidencies were very turbulent, and as someone that grew up, that was in Haiti in 2004, what I saw on TV was terror, this man is bad, and I'm not here supporting or not supporting anyone, but I have to give it to that particular program that there was a will. A lot of money was allocated, and it's an approach that I hope to see transformative investments in education, because education is keeping a lot of people behind. Haitians are very, very educated, very smart. You give them something today, they'll know by tomorrow. They can speak to you in English, Spanish, and French, and Creole. So it's really tough to think about successful public-private partnerships that have worked. But when I think about moving forward, I mean, health, there's a lot there. Drug delivery, access to mobile clinics, but also think about security. Private security firms and PNH, they could work together, right? And lastly, roads. There's not a single project that I've studied that didn't have to then invest in roads. So I don't know, there's some kind of infrastructure type firm that can create this road component, because whether or not you're bringing food or entrepreneurship support, without the roads and the rural side specifically, nothing's happening. So those are the examples I like to give. And so I'll just leave off with a quote that someone said in my latest research. It isn't the gangs really that stop us, it's the roads. That will actually stop you, especially when it rains at night before you go. And I was in the field back in 2019. It rained. We weren't going up that mountain. And so roads, security, health, but really looking at the whole of government approach and looking back at what has actually been a case of a president's willingness to address education and adult literacy in Haiti. Thank you.
As someone that had to drive to higher ground during a rainstorm, I know what you mean about the roads and the floods. Okay, Jake, we know that many international efforts in Haiti have not led to sustainable or proportionate outcomes. But what examples of international assistance programs are there that have been positive and should be emulated? And what are the principles that made these programs work?
Yeah, thanks, Keith. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and to be here with you up here. So I'm going to stay away from very specific examples in individual projects. And obviously there are many. We've heard about some right here, right? And I think, from the World Food Program, what they're doing with the local procurement as well. But and to talk more about the principles, right? And I think, the first thing is, and we've heard a lot of this, I could probably just sort of not say anything and turn things back over to you. But it's just the approach on entry, right, is generally there is a belief, we're the experts up here in the global north and we know what's best and we're going to dictate what happens, right? And that is the framework, the ideology that pervades. That can't be the case if you want to be successful, right? The next thing I think that is really important is flexibility. You see organizations come in with basically a list, right? That you need to check off this, and this in order to move forward. And then once you're doing it, you need to comply with X, Y, and Z, and just checking the boxes. And that's just not actually feasible. It's not suitable. And it also is a reflection of that first step, saying that, we set these rules and you have to comply with them, as opposed to saying, how do you operate? How do you function? And I think that's the third principle, which is listening, right? Exactly as you're saying. You can't come in and say, here's the project we want to deliver to your community. That is, in practice, how this often happens, right? You say, oh, I found a community in need, I'm going to go build a school for them. Maybe that's not what they want. Maybe that's not what they need. You need to know that if you want to be successful. And so listening is a huge part of that. And I think that's something that can be done on an individual project basis, but it can also be done in a more holistic way, right? Is just expanding our information intake from Haiti, right? Is not sitting here, we can have these conversations, and coming up with the solution for Haiti, right? I mean, that's not how you can do it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And then I think the other thing is accompaniment, right? And you're talking about Paul Farmer, and this has been a principle I think that's been on the table for a long time. But and gets to exactly what you're talking about too with ownership, right? Is you're not there to own this program or this project or the outcome of it, and so that principle of accompaniment, of solidarity, right, of standing alongside something in a community as it goes and as it is built and as it is completed and seen through to the future, is the dynamic that has to be at play. And I think sort of taking a step back, those are some principles that would lead to better outcomes, right? There are, in general, where you see that happening, smaller scale things, community level things, smaller grassroots organizations that can directly engage with communities. And oftentimes when you're talking about trying to scale that or replicate that at a larger level, the reasons why you can't do that have very little to do with Haiti and more to do with those entities themselves and how they operate, right? And as an example, right, for USAID, and we talk about localization, and they're trying to change the way they do business to a certain extent, but Congress sets the rules for how USAID spends its money. I mean, I've had conversations with people in USAID like, yeah, I'd love to do this project. I'd love to go to this community and ask them what they need. That's not how our request for proposal process works. That's not what the congressional requirements, allow us to do. And so it becomes difficult to scale that. I think sometimes it's worth trying to descale things, right? Not try to replicate things on a big national level, but do those community level work and be okay with that. But I think there's another thing, and this is not to try and sort of switch it into from a positive to a negative lens, but I think we have to understand that even if an individual project is successful on the merits of that individual project, it doesn't mean that it can't have negative, broader consequences or be part of broader systems at play that are going to have negative consequences. And so I think the final sort of principle is to have a much more holistic view of how all of these things work, right? And so I think this involves sort of how you connect things to the state, how you don't feed into dynamics that exist, right, and perpetuate them by recreating a state structure but outside the confines of the state, right? So you could have a very successful project that provides education to a community, and that's really good for that community. If it's not a public school and built into that public system, it's still part of this broader structure of the outsourcing of the state that we've seen over a really long time. And so those are challenges that confront even a successful project, right? So we have to, I think in development space, in aid space, everything can get siloed, right? So you work in this industry, in this sector, right? And that's where we like to stay focused. You say, I do health work. I don't touch anything else. But all of these things are related and interrelated. And if we can't take a step back and see that bigger picture, much more likely to replicate mistakes of the past and lead to worse outcomes down the road.
Fantastic, thanks. Let's go to Gloria again. So one of the big challenges that are up right now, or that is presenting itself now, is demobilizing mostly young men, some young women from gangs. One of the great challenges in Haiti as we look at the security picture. So many experts in Haiti and the international community have called for a jobs program as part of the solution. There's got to be something. What specific programs and strategies have been tried that would facilitate diversion from gangs while also ensuring that it contributes to the long-term development and stability and is fair to those that adhere to the rule of law? There's going to be a real transitional justice challenge to all this as well.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Keith. So this is a very, very important question. And we discussed earlier about making sure that what I say in response to the question is not misinterpreted, because what I will say may rub some folks the wrong way, but this is how my mind works in terms of moving forward. So I'll provide a general response to this, since there are no current successful applications for this in Haiti yet. But rather there are programs that are being proactive in other parts of the country, particularly the Artibonite department, where the gangs have actually, that's probably the only rural area that has actual really intensive gang activity that has affected smallholder farmers there. And so there are civic education programs there that are trying to educate the youth and their parents about what's going on, how to prevent kids from, or the youth from entering gangs and whatnot. And so moving on from that, I'd like to just reference two examples. From a natural resource perspective, Haiti's potential for natural resources is high. There's a vast rural landscape that has potential to produce the country's food and produce it over multiple seasons, unlike other countries. And so I'd like to talk about the natural resource approaches. So there's one in Mexico, right? It's called, I'm going to butcher the Spanish, I do not speak Spanish. It's called Nacidos para Triunfar. It's pretty good, I'll say. And it's in English, it means born to succeed, right? So this program focused on bringing peace among gangs in the crime-heavy northern city of Monterrey. And they focus on reintegrating former drug cartel members back into society. So what they did was, and I quote, "So we take the former gang members, help to reform them, teach them how to work the land in an organic way, in an urban landscape, and then we give them a project for 2 months where they can modify the landscape." But the idea is not to just give them training. I mean, this is not just a government problem. This is a social fabric problem. It's not just train them this way. If the wealth distribution is still very significantly different, it still is a major problem. But when I think about the landscape that I've researched in Haiti, what potential there is, and massive plots of land that are privately owned that are not being managed, I think about what do folks that would love to be in the rural side, or if they're from the rural areas, return home by way of a program, rehabilitation program that is managed, but also have an opportunity to restore the land. And while restoring the land, restore their dignity, restore their identities to Haiti, and pretty much make amends by restoring the land that will help feed them and their peers and their families to come. And another example is also in El Salvador, which also had a, pretty, still probably does, gang issue. And so to relieve the national prison system. And as you know, in Haiti, our national prison in the capital was broken into. And so there are folks that are free that probably didn't finish their terms or had already finished their terms long ago or never actually saw a judge to receive their sentencing. And so what they did there was they started training folks for farm jails. So pretty much the gang members would learn the farm skills and they would then be reintegrated into the society. But the issue that was brought up is, at the end of the day, the biggest markets are entrepreneurship, technical capacity, computer, learning English, and customer service. So it might be an option to consider natural resource and agricultural approaches, but practically speaking today, it's a matter of what's the market looking like. And so while there needs to be immediate measures to rehabilitate gang members, we also need to think about the economy and things like programming, coding. There are Haitians right now, very smart Haitians in Haiti that are programmers, coders. I would think that someone that is being rehabilitated would probably feel more with knowing that I'm coding, I'm providing some kind of like technical capacity or customer service versus I'm on a farm. And so I'm not trying to say bring back some kind of like forced labor or slavery. What I'm saying is there are things that have been applied elsewhere, and I think we need to take full advantage of the potential of Haiti's rural landscape to produce food, but also try to bring Haiti up to the standard in terms of technology. I think there's room for that, and if it's a matter of establishing hubs where rehabilitated folks can go and learn how to code, program, and help with customer service, I think that's an option. And lastly, I do want to just reference research about the depressive symptoms of Haitian men from armed groups who participated in rehab programs. So after the coup in 2001, researchers from North Carolina studied former gang members and how, even though as part of the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration, a lot of them experienced increased depression because whether or not they put their guns down, they still felt like people wanted them annihilated. So there's a lot there mental health-wise that has to be addressed. And so it's going to be a lot, but I think it's really time to think about innovative ways that will not reduce reduce dignity, but build up their attachment to their country, but also address other things as well. But I'll stop there. But I think there's opportunities to leverage the talent of a lot of youth that are in gangs and the other youth that are ready to train folks that are interested. And so looking forward to seeing if this could be something that is considered. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a really important issue. We're going to do more work on this later, probably have a separate session, but it's one of the things to think about. The demobilization program that I watched in the 90s was effectively demobilizing the ex-Army, giving them basically 2 months of training and a toolkit for jobs which we then realized were not available. That's kind of what the beginning of the gang problem to begin with, in a very low level, and then it grew and grew and grew. This one I think will be different because there's a lot of the gang members that are very, very junior. They could easily be diverted to something else, but there's still going to have to be a community element to that, right, where the communities would have their own process of getting through the damage that has been done to them, and allowing that space for a kind of a transitional, or what Colombia is pioneering now, of restorative justice. And I like that about some of the examples where they would not only be involved in trying to go on to another livelihood, but that livelihood would be benefiting society, paying back some of that damage. So it was really good. Any other comments? Yeah, Jake, I thought you might have.
Add something. I think, it's obviously a different topic, different than what we were talking about with sort of development projects, right? But I think you can view it through a similar lens too. And so a lot of those principles that I was talking about, I think apply here too, right? And so I think the first step is go to these communities and say, what do you need to stop this cycle of violence, right? And I think you're going to get a lot of interesting responses to that, right? I mean, this is what I'm asking my friends in these communities, like, what would actually stop this, right? At its core, so much of this is a broken social contract, is that inequality that we see, is just the absence of the state in these communities. And so, individual projects, targeted things for certain communities or parts of communities is one thing. Those are going to happen to a certain extent, I'm quite sure. But I think looking at it from a more public policy perspective and investment in these communities, right, and targeting that as opposed to whether or not you had a gun or not, but seeing these as deeply impoverished and communities that have been cut out of the state or intentionally left out of the state apparatus for way too long, and trying to get at the core of what's driving that and addressing that.
Mike.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, sorry. And that's where I think that IUC program, the alphabetization program, some of the things that he was trying to do were intentionally trying to target the communities that were being neglected, like Cité Soleil, Bel Air, like the neglection of those parts of the capital is a huge reason why we're here today, right? So really trying to look at what community members that are in these communities that unfortunately dealt with the violence are looking to have a basic standard of living to prevent youth from going into those gang activities. But there's a lot there. But thank you, Jake, for adding that on.
Perfect. Yeah, good. Jake, let me go to another question for you. So you talked a little bit about the principles that would be make for good programs, but I wanted to move a little bit more to the policy side now. So not to relitigate the past, which we often do too much of, but there's been many policies that have done tremendous damage to Haiti's agriculture and industry, and we've had that already from Jean-Martin's intervention. But also some economic damage, as I recall, from too fast an effort to liberalize a very fragile economy and political base in the 1990s. Are there obvious good policies that should be implemented now to get the maximum number of people working again, eating again, and what should be avoided by the international financial organizations and the U.S.? One hears a good deal about early support for the Hope Help Act. It's one possible policy, but what policies would have the most impact right now on shoring up all of this that we've been talking about moving to a more active Haitian state, to moving to more grounded community policies? What would you say would be the best policies to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we were having a brief conversation about this in the Hope Help legislation, which is what grants Haiti duty-free access, garment manufacturing predominantly into the U.S. market. And I think this is obviously it's important. It is the main source of foreign currency in Haiti, is the export of these garments. It's also extraordinarily low wage and often really poor working conditions, right, to say the least. But I think, so it's not that taking it away is the answer, right, or saying Haiti doesn't deserve duty-free access to these things, but also understanding that this is not a development plan, right? And so when you look at that industry, and I will use this as an example to get into what you're asking, is there's very little value added locally. They import things into Haiti, assemble it into a factory, export it. Okay, right? You're not adding value in Haiti.
Other than the jobs, so there's a lot of jobs at stake.
Of course,
Right.
and it's not to say that this is entirely unimportant or not relevant, right? But that's not a development plan, right? I mean, that's creating, about 25,000 jobs in the country. Again, this is not nothing, but this is also, right, a country of 14 million people.
Right.
So, this is what we're talking about. And yet this is the biggest export industry. So what are the policies that are going to actually add value locally? Or what can be done to change these policies in order to prioritize that? I mean, the development banks, for example, right, that is often not part of that analysis. I think it has to be. And ultimately, I think, we have... It is natural to have concerns over corruption and accountability and these things. And so that often leads us to say, well, we can't get money into the hands of the government. It is going to have to be the government that does these things. And, we've talked about a lot of those failures of the past. And again, I'm not going to try and relitigate everything, Keith, I promise. But, money gets wasted when it doesn't go to the government too. There's corruption in foreign aid agencies and NGOs and the development. These things all exist outside of the Haitian government too, right? The Haitians don't have a monopoly on corruption. So I think we need to sort of check that to a certain extent and understand that if we actually want to build local capacity, if we actually want a stronger Haitian government that can provide these opportunities, that can make the necessary investments, they need to be strengthened. They need to be empowered to do so. We need to actually partner with those entities and get more money to them. I mean, I think, it asks specifically what could be done right now, right? And I think this is going to be a little in the weeds, and it's not something specific to Haiti at all, but there's a big push right now for a new allocation of special drawing rights from the International Monetary Fund, from the IMF. And this is like a global reserve currency that can, it's not debt, and there was a big disbursement a few years ago during the pandemic, provided really important resources for developing countries all over the world to be able to either pay down debt, make public investments and things like this. Haiti benefited greatly from that. That gave them resources to actually invest, to have more of an appropriate COVID response at the time to build up some infrastructure and those things. And so, yes, accountability and other things are important, but I think we should be looking to see how we can get money into the hands of public sector actors in Haiti.
Just a warning, we're going to go over a little bit, so hope everybody's ready for that. We'll go over by about 15 minutes, so we'll go till about 3:15, and if people have to leave, that's okay. But we've got a little bit more to cover here, and I wanted to make sure we don't shortchange anything. There's a very fragile, let me follow up, there's a very fragile transitional government now that, it's transitional, but transitional for, something like 18 months, so it's not nothing, and it's a really critical period. Jake, as you look at what that government needs most to succeed, is it advisors on the ground with Haitians? Is it just money? How do you kind of lock in enough accountability so whatever is done is productive? It seems to be a very understaffed, under-resourced, group of 7 with 2 additionals, but it's going to flounder without help. What would be the things that it needs?
Yeah, I'd switch it around a little bit, right? Because I think for me and look, the best person to be answering this would be the council, right? What do they need? But I think more fundamentally, it's what's going to determine if this council succeeds or not, or is able to move forward in any sort of a productive way, is its relationship with the people, with Haitians, right? It doesn't really matter, I don't think, as much the specifics around the money or the advisors or things like that. I think there is capacity if it's utilized, but can it convince the population that it is worth giving the trust to them, right? That's going to be the big question, and that's ultimately, I'm not the one in the best position to tell them how to do that, or what's going to convince the Haitian people that these are actors that have their best interests at heart, right? But that's going to be what determines their success, I think.
Delivery and communication,
Exactly.
Absolutely. Good. I want to kind of follow up with a similar question from Madeline now to close out our round of questions, and then we'll have one final intervention by each of you if you want to wrap up. So the state has not played a very active role, as we've talked about, in Haiti's rural areas, and with the current issues in Port-au-Prince even less so. But what should the new transitional government do as it gets established to better support the half of Haiti that lives in rural areas? So kind of the same question, but how do they, again, in this interim period and then setting the stage for the permanent government that will come in through elections, what are the things that they need to do? This has been a neglect that's gone on for 200 years. Nobody's going to break the cycle in 18 months, but it starts somewhere.
Yeah, good question. Before I came into this panel, I had a conversation with my community engagement catalyst in Haiti, and community members. Actually, they gathered last Monday for us to talk about the new transitional government. Sorry about that. One of the things that they talked about is like we have a new opportunity right now as Haitians to get together. The government right now, the Transition Council, could be involved in roundtables around the country. Involve Haitians into engaging them into conversations, and especially those that have been neglected before, to find out, because we've been fragmented as a nation, and we follow our leaders subconsciously. What's happened at the government or state level are being transferred at the community level. So how do you get a fragmented nation back together? To talk to each other, to talk about our conflict, to talk about decision making, to talk about, the greater good for the greatest number. I think that will give them an opportunity to go around the country, via diverse ministries or via the very, very low level of government, like the AZEC, KAZEC. We're a very small organization. And then we have community meetings every single week. So I think that the government can do much more. They can do much more. Because, people are eager to talk. We did an action research about citizen engagement and their relationship with the state, and they practice citizenship between themselves because the state is absent. What a greater opportunity, for this transition to really surprise everyone and then to really be there for the people, especially the young people in our conversation last Monday. They said they want to be involved in their country. As you all know, Haiti has a very young population. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be good citizens. But, they need their states to be there for them. They need their leaders to show them the way. And I remember I went back to Mark community. It's a community in the mountain, in the second section of Campirin. And as I was doing my validation of the action research, it's a group of women. None of them know how to read. And I'm reading what they say back to them during the focus group. They say, no one will believe we have this kind of knowledge. You need to write them down. And then for me, as I was reflecting on that, how sad. look at that. And then as we're talking about the environment, and this woman said, every time I cut a tree, it's like cursing my mother. But regardless, it's going to be another sack of charcoal that's going to be on my head next Tuesday market, because the trees are to go first before I do. So it's not because they're not conscious about their environment. They don't have a choice. They have to survive. So the government then, Ministry of Environment, sit down with your citizen, find out from them what they need. I'm very, very, I'm in love with the Haitian people, especially the rural communities. And I think that it will be very sad if they are not involved into the next Haiti that we're all dreaming on.
Fantastic. I'd like to mix it up a little bit. We were going to go back for final comments. I'm going to hold that. I'd like to go for question and answer from the audience here. And then I don't know if we got anything in from the Zoom world. And Jean-Martin, I hope you can stay with us a few more minutes. Great. And we may be able to, if it's not too much trouble, we can go back to you if there's questions for you as well. Or maybe even a comment once we get your first question on these issues as well. So anyone from the audience like to ask a question? We have one here. You could just tell us who you are. And
Sure. My name's Eamon McGoldrick. I'm here from the National Endowment for Democracy. I really like this point about the Transitional Council will have to engender legitimacy with the population, because I think all the momentum is building towards some sort of electoral process, but what value does an electoral process have if it only gets 15% of the participation? So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how to connect grassroots community demands and the demands of civil society to this broader political process, and how to connect the state to community demands. And then also in terms of building institutionality of the state, do you think there are institutions, which institutions should be prioritized? And then I know in the democracy assistance world, there's this argument of sequencing, that you can't have democracy until you have some modicum of authority. And with Bukele in the region, that narrative is very popular. What are your thoughts on this idea of sequencing? Can Haiti have a truly democratic transition without going through a period of authoritarianism?
so we're going to take that alone. I was going to have a group of questions. That's too many questions. So we'll take that one, just that set now. But the point I thought that was very good was, everyone's running around. We had a good session last week on the Constitution and how that relates to the election. There's a lot of very procedural electoral things that have to get done before you hold an election. That's going to be overwhelming. But it's a very good point. There's no point in even holding an election with 15% participation. So these other things we've talked about the state connecting with the people and this transitional government being successful and communicating and listening and having people feel like this is going to be an election worth participating in. So any comments on that, on this, again, the question of preparing the people to be to be motivated for an election, and then also the sequencing issue, and you're kind of alluding, I think, to a Bukelization of security. Is one question. Jean-Martin, can we bring Jean-Martin in?
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith. I'd like to comment on the sequencing and the legitimacy issue. I'd like to come back to the fact that 5 million Haitians, 50% of the surveyed population, is acutely food insecure. Haiti will never be at peace as long as half of its population is starving. I don't see how it would be possible to organize a credible election when acute food insecurity is so high. Legitimacy is also, it starts with ensuring people have jobs and people have a square meal at the end of the day. So I think that really should encourage us to care for the Haitian population. As you said, Keith, in your introductory remarks, we have a mission deploying. Security is a prerequisite for a lot of it. But we also need to have a robust humanitarian and social programs in place, or else we'll have a lot of trouble with these elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrific. Anyone else? Yep.
Yeah, sure. So great question. Thank you for that. So I'll just add that two things. What I'm hearing is the council doesn't have too much staff. So whether it's a matter of resources being provided or not, I think one of the things that they really lack right now is a communication strategy. If they could do weekly press conferences or weekly roundtables, that would really help address some of the misinformation, because there are outlets that are reporting things that are trying to create a population of Haitians across the diaspora and in Haiti to be against this council. And like Madeline, I'm hopeful. I think it's a period where if we can transform how we've been engaging with Haiti and Haiti has been engaging with its population, there's opportunity for this transitionary period to actually work in a way that's beneficial. I'd also like to add on that there are colleagues of mine that have been advocating for Haitian American diaspora orgs to be included in the USAID appropriations bill coming up to ensure that the orgs that are Haitian-led or Haitian-American-led that have roots in these communities, that have the trust already established after years and decades of establishing rapport, they have the means to educate and influence communities and also capture information and their perceptions and report back to higher level orgs institutions to be able to assess perceptions, but also try to influence folks in their voting behavior. So I think supporting that language should be inserted into certain things could help with getting access to communities in these rural areas, because a lot of us have connections there. And so those are my 2 points.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to say something like that, but know that I'm coming from the 50%. Coming from that. Trust is a big issue, in our government. So how do you establish trust? In the first place is by having relationship. For instance, go into the community, the trust should be bi-directional. How do I build trust with community members? Just by sitting down with them, hear about who they are, and give them the opportunity to ask me questions about myself, So imagine that is being done in Haiti at a round table. It's not like, oh, this is my plan, but before you have a big government plan, you're doing your plan, like I think you mentioned that, for your people, and you don't talk to them. So how are you gonna whose plan's gonna be? And how they gonna affect them? Imagine that if they can be implicated by that. Okay, rule setting, this is what I want, this is what they want. We're gonna add that. And then you advocate for your community. You have a war of international donors at your corner. Do you know how long it takes? It's just like citizen engagement. It's not sexy, it's not funded. But as a government, as a state, you can meet with your people where they are at. You don't need, those meetings, you don't need a lot of money to convey people if they believe, if they have that trust in you. And I think that I'm really gonna advocate for that, So after that, then the relationship is strong, and then okay, let's go. And the trust is there. But times need to be dedicated for that.
Great, thanks. Perfect. All right, let's go for it. Michael?
Yes, if I could pick up on the question about Mike J.G.'s Alliance for Peace Building, the question about connecting the community to the state, and your point about building trust in the government needs to be engaged, if you will, with the community. Of course, the problem with the government is the problem of corruption, and that's why we, if you will, our assistance program cut the government out of the process and went directly to NGOs. So the suggestion for a solution developed in Afghanistan because AID was not able to monitor its project, and it was done by Lorenzo Delegues, and I forget the name of his organization, but he wrote a chapter in a book I did. So it's called community-based monitoring. So the details of it I'll provide, but I really think that AID, at least, our assistance, ought to be contingent on having community-based monitoring of our assistance projects and linking the state to that, if certainly with whatever assistance the government is able to provide at this point, having the community involved in monitoring their development projects. So I think that technique would address a couple of the issues that you've said are, and they are fundamentally critical to success.
Great, so that's a great suggestion, building in a monitoring component for the community in addition to getting their input up front. Terrific. Anyone else? Other questions? Okay. Great, nothing? Yeah. There's one more, yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for the invite. My name is Joseph Baptiste. I'm in town and from Haiti, and also involved in different organizations. One is Haitian Pathway Forward. Two questions that I have. I congratulate you for getting into the rural area and get access to women, mostly to help them, to help themselves. I think this is the future of Haiti because we have to be able, even though World Food Association and all the other people that help us to feed ourselves over the years, we really need to go back and go ahead and go back into the land and try to feed ourselves without keep asking for help. Have you ever heard of Fonds? This is one organization that the microfinance that help women in Haiti to succeed. And they're very successful, as far as I'm concerned. The other questions that I have is with the council. The council right now is in a crucial area time that they have to name a prime minister. This is the guy that's going to run the show. We don't have a choice but to find the right leader to run that show. The most important part of the future of Haiti is the election. We need to have a very good election to elect a good leader in order for us to move forward. So therefore, we need to have somebody that is apolitic, that can come in and you can trust him with the fund that you give him to do projects with construction, the business in Haiti, as well as in order for us to move forward with a good election. So they have a chance to make the right decision, except from what I'm very surprised to see that the private sector is trying their best to try to buy in the Prime Minister's office, and that shouldn't happen. So therefore, to me, that's the future of the country, and I think that even though the United States tried to help over the years, we still not go back and also discard the diaspora with the expertise that can actually help in the rebuilding of Haiti. So that's something I have to
Terrific, thanks.
Thank you.
Good. I think we're going to leave that. We'll table that. We'll let you all comment in your final remarks. What I'd like to do is just do a lightning round then of maybe 2 minutes each of closings. John Martin, do you want to start? Just a couple of minutes. Any closing comments or thoughts?
Well, Keith, I want to thank you for bringing us around the table. I'd like to go back to a comment that was made earlier on about what policies should we implement, and I think there were answers in terms of what U.S. policies need to be implemented. From the perspective of right here in Haiti, what needs to happen is the effective implementation of the national social protection policy. Again, we need to care for Haiti's people.
Sorry, the national, you cut off. The national,
social protection policy.
there we go, thanks.
This is the policy that provides for small payments each month to the poorest of the poor in Haiti. It's a policy that's already being implemented in Grandance. 100,000 people are benefiting from it right now. It involves a social registry and involves regular payments. This will allow Haiti to move humanitarian assistance to social protection to a system that's run by the government, that's predictable, that's Haitian owned. So I wanted to close by mentioning that it's one of the key elements that would allow us to find that stability, build that legitimacy, and they contribute to the social contract that's suffered so much. Thank you for involving me.
Thank you, terrific. Jake?
Yeah, I mean, so much. I think, I'd just say, just to sort of echo that, because I think it tailors very well with what I was saying here. And I just want to mention the sort of, I talked about this broader picture, how this thing impacts Haiti, right? And we're talking about security intervention today, and we often lose sight that there are various forms of intervention that are taking place all day, every day, right? These aid projects, they're a form of intervention, good or bad, right? They have impacts. And something like this we were talking about, what's going to give the government credibility? What's going to give people trust? Well, yeah, if they're getting assistance from the state as opposed to a private actor, they might care who is going to run the government, right? And if not, they might not, right? It makes sense. You don't have any incentive to vote if the government's not actually providing you with anything. And if nobody's actually campaigning on a political platform to do so. And so, these things are all related. I just would close with one final thing, and that's, we're talking a lot about projects, specific policies, and there are broader policies, the U.S. foreign policy, the political interventionism that happens. And I think, we're talking about the council, and I want to be optimistic too. But even just how it was created and the role of international actors, it is another form of intervention, right? And I think we need to be really wary of that and aware of the implications of that. And that the best design, the best, carried out project, if that part doesn't change, it's going to be really, really hard to find sustainable solutions or legitimate governance, right? And so ultimately, we need to keep our eyes on that side of this as well.
Yeah.
Terrific, thanks. Madeline?
Oh, what can I say?
You've said a lot.
Well, I'm still advocating for rural citizens to be part of the process. I know that there are lots of challenges ahead with the new council, with security in Port-au-Prince, but what I see happening in my area with what citizens, are doing, these are the things that I think that are scalable and that can be replicated all over the country. Citizens talking together, citizens talking to government. And then, because just one example, why do you think the young people come back to the village and then take over? It's because, they are accountable to the community. So accountability is big for the government toward its citizen. So when you start talking and you start building that relationship, then you're accountable to someone. And somebody needs to ask you, what the heck? What are you doing? And so I think that building that culture within the fabric of our country, the fabric of talking together, the fabric of round tables, the fabric of state engaging citizens, I think that for me, it's one of the key aspects that need to move our nation forward.
Terrific, thank you. Gloria?
Yes, so I will not be able to give you everything that I have. I have a 217-page dissertation that, if you want to see it, has everything I want to say but can't say right now. But as for policy stateside, I want to bring up the Farm Bill. It's up for voting this year, and so it's going to be playing a critical role. It might even go against what we're trying to push for, so keep an eye on that. The USDA blocking of mango exports from Haiti. Because of that, I guess the folks that are inspectors for the mangoes being exported have been forced to leave Haiti because of the insecurity, and so therefore there's a massive population of folks that produce mangoes that have lost a source of livelihood and income, therefore more insecurity there. And so my colleagues have said a lot here. I'm going to focus a bit on one model I'd like us to think about as we move on with what does it look like to have partnerships that are innovative. And so one of the studies I helped lead was focusing on these hospital/natural resource agriculture programs. And so I want to highlight Partners in Agriculture. Partners in Health, which is Paul Farmer's one of the orgs that he helped start. They partner with Partners in Agriculture. Sorry for the speed. I'm trying to make sure that we are getting out on time.
Minute.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So Partners in Agriculture, budget of about $1 million. They address nutrition. They address carbon payment programs that provide income to farmers that are producing coffee. And the hospital and natural resource agriculture program partnership is amazing because they're able to identify the most vulnerable communities that need the most help in terms of nutrition. There's also Haiti Timber Reintroduction Program and Hôpital Albert Schweitzer, which is a hospital in the Artibonite department. Again, the area that's been affected by gangs, rural side, and so budget of about $150,000. They've been in establishment since 2005. And Partners in Agriculture, I think, is 2004. And last but not least, community to community and APHD, which is Association Paysan Haute-12e, which has a collaboration with Ministry of Health. And so again, this is a peasant association that has all of their proposals ready. They just don't have a seat at the table. And their budget is about $200K. So we're looking at very small scale, medium scale projects that have been in business or in implementation for over 10 years. They're successful, they have the proof, and things like that need to be considered as we think about health, climate, and agriculture. And also like to mention Sohaduk is another program in Kenskoff. I'm forgetting how the acronym, but Haiti Community Trust, which is establishing a permanent endowment for Haiti for rural side development. They purchase the chickens that FAO gives to people in Kenskoff and use it to build their business in there. And so last but not least, coordination. Okay, I'm going to speak to French. There's a particular agency or group in Haiti that focuses specifically on food security. I don't speak French well at all. Coordination Nationale de la Sécurité Alimentaire for food security. Prop this agency up. They are trying their best to do research. They're finding out who's eating what where, what is producing where, and with what resources can be injected to further support food security. I'm a researcher, research and innovation, domestic, Keskia University, Gaël Persois. He saved the Mayoc species in Haiti. So plant and food science really need to be invested more. We can produce our own food, and we can complement what agencies such as World Food Program are doing to help respond to the crisis, and I look forward to more discussions. And lastly, again, my dissertation is available, so I can't say too much, but thank you.
Well, terrific. So we're at time, a little over time, but I just wanted to really quickly then wrap up. So, I mean, this was a phenomenal panel. Between the four of you, it was like having the Beatles on stage. I won't say who was John and who was Ringo, but it just came together, and it complemented each other tremendously well. I think as we look at this now in the context of what we're going to do, which is a write-up. We do a kind of a white paper write-up from the event, even though it's available publicly so people don't have to weave through it. And we'll have the different sections of recommendations and of observations, and anything that we didn't get to, please send us. We'll have a little annex of additional either ideas or sources, and we'll put your dissertation in there as well. My main conclusion is that there's much to work with in Haiti, and there's much to work for, and that was exactly what we had hoped to demonstrate, and I do hope that that resonates in the midst of what is apparently some pessimism in this town and elsewhere. And I always tell people that what I find with Haiti is there's a lot of people that know just enough about Haiti to be afraid of it and not enough to know what to do. But the what to do for anyone that's lived in Haiti, anyone that's interacted consistently with the Haitian people is usually quite obvious. There is plenty to work with and plenty to do. So thank you very much. It was really great to have you all. Madeline's here for another 2 months at USIP as one of our fellows. Very accessible, and Jake is very accessible as well. So please, Gloria also. So please hope you have an engagement with them also on LinkedIn or however we do these things, but I'm sure they'd be happy to follow up with any additional ideas and any additional comments. So thanks a lot, everybody. Jean-Martin, thank you so much for plugging in. That really helped us here as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.